Blood red moon lights my way. Angel falcon sells me. Life and death.
I don't want to end this game.
Alright guys, it's odd starting my morning watching Boomer and Geo. That's a show I haven't watched in a while. Of course, Boomer and Geo is syndicated from WFAN in New York. I usually, when it comes to shows like this, I usually like to watch, or not like, I love to watch the Michael K show. Michael, Don, and Peter are absolutely the best in radio, in my opinion, when it comes to talk shows like nationally syndicated. Of course, like locally, the 960 The Ref guys, or Carl Dukes and Mike Bell on 92.9, Selene and Domino on 680 The Fan. Those like local shows, those are my favorites. But when it comes to national shows, Michael K probably would be my favorite, and then probably Boomer and Geo. I used to love to watch Max Kellerman, but I have absolutely no idea what happened to him and his shows, so I'll leave it at that. But you're not here to talk about the national. I could go on for that for hours. You're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the. I'm trying to find my phone before I say something. We're here to talk about Georgia Bulldogs. And I thought about something last night. I thought about what could Georgia's football team learn from their basketball and baseball teams this year. Georgia football went on the run last year. They were continuing their run from the 2022 season, and then lost to Alabama in the national championship game and beat Florida State, I believe 63-3 or something along the lines. Forgive me, January was a long time ago now. Or actually, the end of December. That game was on December 31st, so that's a long time ago now. But and then Georgia basketball was continuing their season. They actually played that day. They actually played December 31st and beat Alabama A&M. But they were in their season. They were one game away from starting conference play, which they ultimately would. And they actually had a pretty not good. They finished 6-12. But when you look at the overall, I know people are going to be mad we went 6-12 last year in conference play, but with the way the season ended, I just don't believe people should be mad about that. Now, obviously, we went 6-12 and then we're not playing anymore. That conference record does have to change. I won't give it the benefit of the doubt. The conference record does have to change, but you're going to have to. We're going to have to figure out how to get above 6-12. Maybe like, what would that be? 6-12? That would be like maybe like 8-9 or 8-10. Just up your conference games by just 2 or 3 more. And when you look at the games we lost, especially Tennessee, Alabama, the first Florida game, the second Florida game, both games against Florida, if we're being honestly. And then Mississippi State and Arkansas game. There's only, like I've said this before, there's only a few games Georgia played in last year in conference play they absolutely could not win. Both games against Auburn, Texas A&M, Kentucky. You kind of like choose your pick there. But the game against South Carolina, Mississippi State, Arkansas, both games against Florida, Alabama, and Tennessee, Georgia very well could have won those games. So you got to get the conference record back up. But I got off track with that. Georgia basketball finished their season in the semifinals of the NIT, losing to Seton Hall. And now Georgia baseball. The Diamond Dogs have shot everybody and will be playing in the Super Regionals tomorrow versus North Carolina State. So then you really just start to wonder. I said this a few days ago off camera. This is why I tired this video. All three, or not all three, but all of our sports programs, the fans might not want to admit it, but all three of our sports, I keep saying all three. All our sports programs are all connected and breathe off each other. Football might be the one that, makes the most revenue, but when you look at it, who's had more success this year? Obviously, their baseball team We're playing in June. That hadn't happened since 2008. Georgia's baseball team, when the year is said and done, and we're in December for football season, and the year's winding down. I actually believe Georgia's baseball team will, when you look at everything that's happened in Georgia athletics this year. Shout out to the women's tennis team. They made the national championship. Unfortunately, got beat by Texas A&M, but they're going to be a force to be reckoned with too with years to come. When you look at everything, now I was originally going to say I felt like the most dominant team this year would have been Georgia's softball team, but man, we had a rough month of ever since I believe they got swept by either Tennessee or Arkansas back in March. Then after that, they just went on a constant road. Now, they did make the Super Regionals. They did beat Liberty. They got swept by UCLA in the Super Regionals, but I progressed my point. My point is that when you look at it like this, Georgia's baseball team, when the season's over, when the athletic season ends, probably when the athletic season ends, and that will be in just a few weeks, or whenever Georgia's baseball team loses, I believe we have track and field going on, but I believe that might be ending as well. But when everything's gone and said and done with, I mean, you're going to look at Georgia's softball team had the most successful season out of all the University of Georgia athletic teams. I mean, let's look at basketball. We made the Final Four of the NIT. That's a tremendous season. Georgia's football team, of course, made the Orange Bowl. To me, that was a great season, but to a lot of people, that it left a lot to be desired. They felt like Georgia probably could have won another national championship or just make the playoffs. Don't worry, when the expanded playoffs, Georgia will not miss the playoffs unless they lose 2, 3, 4 games, which I just absolutely do not see happening within the net. Now, it could happen this year, but that will not be something that actually happens regularly under Kirby Smart. When you look at their schedule, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama, and Texas, you have a feeling how do you get out of those games with just one loss. I feel like Georgia will go 4-0 in that stretch, but that's just me. But yeah, when you look at the season that everybody's had this year, when you look at the season softball team has, it's a baseball team, football team, basketball team, tennis, whatever it all might be, I feel like when the season's over, or when the athletic season is over, and then when we're at the end of the year, Georgia's baseball team will have the most complete, the most impressive, the most, I don't want to say dominant, but definitely the most impressive and probably the most important run any of our athletic teams had this year. Even if they get to the World Series, that even if we get beat in the Super Regionals, I still stand by that statement because nobody had Georgia doing absolutely nothing this year. Georgia took me by surprise as well. I was starting baseball season let's see if we could, get a last four in slot and go on a run. Georgia has the 6th or 7th best odds to make the College World Series. So, I mean, Georgia is in a prime position here to do something that has not been done since 2008. When you look at the other SEC schools, LSU, Vanderbilt, Florida, Arkansas, Vanderbilt just fired a few coaches yesterday. When you look at everything here in the SEC, it's finally about time for Georgia to join this conversation of baseball dominance. Now, will Georgia? Mark Kingston did get fired at South Carolina. There are some people, I'm just using quotation marks here, some people saying Wes Johnson might take the South Carolina job. I don't know nothing about that. I'm sure Coach Johnson is only focused on the game, the game in hand tomorrow and Sunday, and perhaps Monday if they have to go to another game. But Georgia it's about time Georgia has joined this conversation in baseball dominance. You go all the way back to the 90s. Georgia was the first ACC team to win the national championship. Georgia was the first Southern team to win the national championship, the first team in the Southern region. You go back to the David Perno era from 2001 to 2008. Just amazing baseball. Jeff Keppinger, Gordon Beckham, all those guys who kind of set the stage, right? I mean, 01, 04, 06, and 08. Georgia had a stretch there that they were untouchable in college baseball. And they dang near should have won at least 2 or 3 more. I would say 1 or 2. Everybody knows the one that got away was 08. But I would also make 01 the one of the ones that got away too. Perhaps 04. 06 felt different in my opinion. When you look at all the ones that Georgia lost, 06 was kind of like, well, I mean, I wasn't alive, so I mean, I'm not saying nothing bad about that. But when you look at 01 and 08, those are definitely the ones that, just completely got away from Georgia. But even 04, they beat Georgia Tech and Clemson in the Super Regionals, right? I mean, you beat your 2 biggest rivals. You go to the World Series. I can't remember who they got beat by, but yeah. So Georgia, what could Georgia football learn from Georgia baseball and basketball? And I'm labeling it as this. Maybe the Georgia football players are looking to. I know for a fact they're looking at what baseball team is doing right now. Let's all unite, man. I mean, let's all unite. And Georgia's athletics program is amazing about this. Let's just feed off of each other. I know there's a long way from when the sports end to August, which volleyball season starts, soccer season starts, and then, football season starts at the end of August. Let's feed off of each other. Georgia's football team should be looking at this run that the baseball team is on. And let's say Georgia's baseball team goes on to win the national championship. Let's win it in football too. That's the way I look at it. There's no excuse why Georgia should not be competing in every single sport. Georgia's competing in every single sport now, and people has not faced that reality yet. Either it be the Georgia football only fans or media or opposing fans, they cannot face the fact that Georgia is competing in every sport right now. Football is, when you just look at my show, you can tell football is on list of 3, it's last. Especially when in June with baseball. I mean, of course, basketball is my favorite sport, and then baseball, then football. But the fact that all 3, I'll put it like this. Majority of Georgia's sports played postseason this year. Well, that's crazy. Their tennis team did. Their equestrian team did. Their gymnastics team. We have to do better at gymnastics. We fired our head coach and have co-coaches. Hopefully that works out. Our gym team, there's no reason why we should not be winning national championships in gym. I know not everybody cares about that, but I'm just going to state the obvious. We have to fix our gym program because when you win 5 straight national championships, you're the standard. That's the truth. It's a lot like Oklahoma. Oklahoma just won its 4th straight championship in softball. There's no question who the standard in softball is. It's Oklahoma. I don't care when we're talking 10 years from now, they have not won a national championship in 10 years. They've just won 4 in a row. That literally is like 40% of this decade gone with Oklahoma. So, Georgia Gym, we have to find a way to get that back. And we'll get that back. We'll be good in gym again. And women's basketball, this is a must-succeed season for Coach Abe. Her first season was promising, and then they just dropped off. I have no idea what happened. We had seniors on the team. We had great players, and we just didn't win games. And then, of course, football in the Orange Bowl last year, they're predicted to make the playoffs and perhaps win another national championship. Nobody's high on Georgia's basketball team this year yet, but outside of a few people, and some people have Georgia being a bubble team or a last four in. With Georgia's conference slate, I'm going to make this quick. With Georgia's conference slate, Georgia could go on and win and be a top 5 seed in the SEC. I know maybe top 6, but Georgia absolutely could be a top 5 seed in college basketball. So, or the SEC. And then, last but not least, the baseball tomorrow night. Look, man, I'm just going to make this as simple as I can. North Carolina State cost us a basketball championship in 1983. The last time Georgia's baseball advanced to the World Series, who do they have to beat? They had to beat North Carolina State. Who do they have to beat in the regionals? They had to beat Georgia Tech. Everything is warming. Everything is lining up for that. So, let's get a win Saturday and Sunday. Let's go Diamond Dogs.
The unthinkable, the unbelievable. They beat Arkansas and go wire to wire to win the SEC tournament.